Okay, so the next speaker is, in fact, she has had her MAC degree from Coventry University, and she also, in 2021, she also had an MSc degree in purchasing, procurement / acquisitions and contracts management, and she was also once an architecture student from KNUST 2020 batch. Yes, she's in the person of Miss Elise-Therese Aba Wilson. So, Miss Elise-Therese Aba Wilson, please, you are welcome.
I don't know if people can see me.
Yeah, we can see you.
Thank you very much. It's
Welcome.
really good to hear all the speakers, especially Millicent. I didn't think we would actually be talking now. I mean, like this whole presentation, because Millicent was my roommate, and it was a very good presentation, and also with the other speaker talking about courage and leadership. I think it's one thing we lack as architects. We're a bit focused mainly on design and architecture. We don't really go outside, we don't really go out of the box. Yeah, so I'll just share my screen and we can start. Is it possible to allow me to share, please? Okay. So just a little introduction. I'm Elise-Therese Aba Wilson. I'm currently an ARB Part 2 architect in England, and my vision for architecture is more about humane architecture, sustainable procurement, and affordable housing. So moving on my background, as the speaker said, I went to school in KNUST in Ghana, and in 2020 I finished. And within that period where I was working as a Part 1 architectural assistant, I decided to pursue a master's in sustainable procurement, contract administration and acquisitions, also in KNUST. So just talking about the whole idea behind the procurement, I felt architecture was mainly, as we were talking about, mainly about design, and we tend to overlook other aspects of design, in the sense that we feel the built environment is a big thing. We have engineers, we have project managers, we have contractors, we have different people that form the whole team. And the whole idea was to drive towards a vision of sustainable housing, affordable housing, especially in Africa. So I felt procurement was the best way to go about that, since in Africa the major problem about building is procuring materials for building. So the idea was to do research into other alternative methods, such as using of bamboo and other local indigenous materials within us, to drive at the goal where we get to have affordable housing, where people can get a decent accommodation at a fairly good price. So that was the whole idea behind the postgrad in procurement. So within this space, as I said, architecture tends to make you focus in one direction. And my idea was to think outside the box. So then I decided to also work on a food business. And I don't know how I combined all three, working in a firm, doing my MSc, and then running that business. But I think, as the other speakers have said, it's taking the courage to do things that you really love and want to do. I think that was the main thing, being courageous and being determined. In 2021, I had the opportunity to study in Coventry University to do my Masters of Architecture. And I think that was one of the turning points in my architecture academia and career, in the sense that I was dealing with a whole new group of people, a whole new mindset, a different environment. And it was very interesting, managing cultural shocks, interacting with people from different backgrounds, the use of different softwares, trying to work in groups, work as a team. It was a very interesting year for me, but it wasn't that easy. And I think one of the things that really helped me was trying to do things outside architecture school, because normally when you're outside in a different country on your own, you tend to be in your shell, tend to focus on what you came to do. But then I felt, I think what helped me was doing things outside the box, doing other things aside architecture. So then again, I decided to go into back into my business. Then this time I was a chef. So that was what I was doing on the side. And I had the opportunity to meet people, had the opportunity to know how the UK work environment is like, how people think, how people interact with other people in a very different background, not a formal one like in architecture. And it was a great experience for me. So fast forward, in 2022, I decided to take on an internship. And with this internship, it was in Europe, in Switzerland. And my experience working in a Swiss firm, and majorly a French Swiss firm, was a tough one, because then we are interacting in a different language, that's in French. You are using Revit or ArchiCAD, which is in French. And this is a 1-month internship. You have to, you have assignments to do, you have projects that have to go out. And it's not an excuse. And the language barrier is not really an excuse, because you are expected to at least have an idea of how to go about things and sort of produce the work. So learning in this internship was a very stimulating one for me. I got to meet other student architects from different countries, France, Paris, how the European standards work. And I was then now forced to leave, should I say, the Ghanaian architecture standards behind and sort of learn something which is very new. And mind you, Europe is very different from the UK or England, and it was quite tough. So I believe that was also another opportunity for me to be courageous. In 2023, I graduated, and at the moment, I'm currently doing a work experience training with a group of architecture firms, including Big and Zaha, and we're being trained in sustainable AI. So that's what I'll be talking about more. And also, I have the opportunity to, as I said, always go out of the box, and I'm also working in procurement and sales in the UK part-time. So with regards to sustainable AI, I'll just talk a little bit on what the AI market is like in the UK and generally abroad, as opposed to what is being perceived in Ghana or in Africa. So the whole idea about AI is more or less, for most people, studying BIM, learning Rhino, and that's more or less parametric design. But then we are looking at sustainable AI in the sense where you are using nature, such as biomimicry, to come up with designs that lead to sustainable innovations. Or you are looking at psychology of spaces, how spaces influence people's emotions and reactions. So that's one thing I think we should be focusing on as architects. It's not all about the softwares. In Ghana, it's more about your renders, like your design. And over here, it's more about what's the theory behind this. Are you looking at sustainability? Is this actually going to be an impact in the society? It's not a business venture as opposed to Ghana. Yeah, so moving on to the other slide, the future of African architecture. I believe the future of African architecture would mainly be influenced by the economic development and political stability, in the sense where we can say we want to be sustainable. We should have smart cities like the way we have in Singapore. We should have very, wow designs in Accra, have innovation in, South Africa, wherever. But then there are a few factors that can influence that. And as I said earlier on, is the political stability, social dynamics, and then the economic development. So the future of African architecture, I'm going to talk about things that are already being done and how we as architects can improve that. So the very first thing I'll talk about is affordable housing. That's one of the major problems Africans we face as Africans, and as architects, most of us are looking at ways to bring out sustainable designs that would be affordable for the poorest of people living in an African country. But then again, I think this is heading in the right direction. If you look at Shelter Afrique, which is one of the Pan-African housing companies that is currently building affordable housing, mainly in Kenya and South Africa. They are doing a good job and sort of putting affordable housing on the map in Africa. So I think that's a step in the right direction. And also in terms of sustainable designs, I would look at it from the AI point. As I said, we are not necessarily looking at using BIM to create sustainable design. So you're looking at the thought process and then the innovation behind what is being designed, how it affects the climate. You're looking at carbon literacy. You're looking at circular economy. So in terms of sustainable design, I feel Africa, we sort of have a long way to go. As architects, I think we are still not there yet in terms of sustainability. We've learned it in school. We always have a sustainable concept, but then when it gets to the practical side on the field, it's quite dead. It's either the client wants this in a particular way, so then you're looking at the monetary side, or okay, the client is saying this, so let's listen to the client. You're not taking charge as architects to actually do our job and recommend or say to the client, this is not going to work, it's not sustainable, let's drop this and this, and let's do it this way. So on that note, sustainability, I think we still have quite a long way to go. And also, one thing I've realized about the future of African architecture is other countries are putting their culture on the map and their heritage. So you have some of the architects in Asia who are building with bamboo, trying to do housing with bamboo. But then in Ghana, even though we have some sort of bamboo, we have some sort of traditional building methods, we haven't yet developed it to a certain standard where we can say, okay, if we are using this method, we can build modern houses or modern developments, but then it will still maintain our cultural identity and heritage. So on that note, I think we still have a bit more work to do. And I believe it can really give an identity to who we are as Africans. And I've already talked about the innovation and then sort of the development. And one other thing I believe would be really good in the future would be smart cities. Smart cities encompasses all the little things I've spoken about before. And in terms of smart cities, we are looking mainly at, should I say, circular economy, net zero, and things that are going to make our lives easier. And I said, the social dynamics and the economic development, I don't know how feasible it is at the moment to sort of put ourselves in that space. But as architects in Africa, architects in Africa, I think we should sort of work on the laws around sustainability, so that every firm or every architect designing can include at least one thing that can urbanize or make their design smart. And cross-cultural collaboration. In KNUST, I think we've done quite well. I don't know much about Uganda and other countries. We've had the opportunity to have people, resource persons from Europe, teach us things or collaborate with us on different projects during maybe summer or exchange programs. And I think that also be a step in the right direction for the future of African architecture, if we're able to collaborate more with the people who have done it there. And it's going to help the face of architecture in Africa. Yeah. So now moving on to the main thing I was talking about, doing things outside architecture. So currently I'm working on an initiative where I'm looking at beyond CAD, which is computer aided design. As architects, when you mention architecture, the main thing is you're sitting behind your laptop, you're designing, you're rendering, you're using softwares. I'm trying to look at architecture in terms of travel, in terms of art, and see how far we can go beyond the traditional mindset. So I'll just bring it to, let's say, Africa. Thanks be to God, I have the opportunity to explore places in Europe. I'm finally seeing all the things that we were taught back in undergraduate, all the things on the internet, and now you're seeing it in real life, and you are having a whole different experience as opposed to when you were seeing it on Google or you were just seeing it on a screen. And I think this is a very good exposure. It sort of opens up your mind on design. It opens up your mind on things, not only in terms of buildings, in terms of art, glass making, painting, photography, different aspects of design, different aspects of art. And this is something I feel we should try and do as architects, go out of the box and create envision things, the things around us, because that influences the way we design and the way we see things. So at the moment, this is one of my major projects I'm working on. So I tend to travel a lot to different parts of the world just to see all these old historic designs, the new ones, and sort of have a broad mentality or mindset on how things are being done elsewhere and how I can incorporate it. Finally, when I come back to Ghana, how best I can help Ghana to grow as a sustainable society. So, thank you.
You're welcome. Please, any questions?
Benny has asked a question in the chat. He's saying,
okay.
You seem to have a well-rounded experience alongside your architectural educational background. Have you had a mentor to guide you in your choices? How have you selected the mentor? If not, what has been your key guiding principles in looking beyond architecture?
The truth of the matter is, I just recently had the opportunity to actually see my mentor in Denmark, Jeannie Gang. So she's somebody I've read about, I've seen a lot of her designs and listened to a lot of her interviews, and I took an initiative to actually go for a conference, an architecture conference, which gave me the exposure and the opportunity to meet her. And I would say she has partly informed the way I think about architecture, because if you follow her firm and you follow her pages, her social media pages, she looks outside architecture design. She also works on humane architecture, charitable stuff alongside design. So I think she's one of the contributing factors to the way I've thought beyond the traditional architecture. Just going back to read your question and again and see if I've covered everything. I think there was something else.
How have you selected your mentor?
Okay, yeah. To be honest, I just came across Jeannie Gang. It was one of these assignments we had in undergraduate school in tech, and I think we were supposed to write on 10 architects or something, and I just went on, I just typed female architects. And another reason was everybody seemed to choose Zaha because Zaha is well known and all of that, but as I said, I'm always doing things a bit different outside of the box. So I just decided to know more about Jeannie, and that has really been it. There wasn't any particular thing. I mean, apart from her design, which is more about biomimicry, using things in nature to depict architectural designs, her charitable stuff outside of the organization as her being an architect is also one of it. So I think that's one of the guides I used.
Okay. And then someone is also asking that what advice will you give architectural students, especially in Ghana, to be courageous during their school life so they don't give up along the line?
That's my mother over there. I'm just saying this because during first year I wanted to stop architecture school, but I think in Ghana we are put in a certain box where if you are not good with a software, you are not really you're not an architect. Let me say you're not an architect, or you can't be an architect. We've had I've had, or other people have had very certain situations or experiences where you can be told by a lecturer that because maybe you don't know how to draw, or maybe you're not that good. You don't qualify, or you're not fit to be like an architect. And those things are like a bit, they are demeaning. But the thing is, there's something that keeps you going. That's passion. So if you're not really passionate about architecture, once they say all of those things to you, sort of brings you down, and they are like, oh, I think I'm in the wrong profession. But then again, coming to the foreign setting, in the foreign setting is very different. You are never criticized for your work. You are always encouraged. Even if there's some people's work, you say, no, this is just not it. But then a lecturer will say it's really good. Like, they want to know, the thought process behind this. They are like eager to understand what you are thinking. In Ghana and some parts of Africa, it's very different. If it's trash, they'll just like either tell you, or they would maybe tear your work or something like that. And those things tend to bring you down. But yeah, I think it's up to you. It's about your determination. It's about your passion and knowing what exactly you want. So even though they are saying things that may not be really pleasant, the main thing is to focus on your goal and know that at the end of it all, you wouldn't even remember what was said previously. It would even be funny at a point when you are settled and you know that, okay, now I'm an architect and everything is going on well. So that's the advice I have. And there are times for Ghanaian students, times where things are if you want to cry, just cry. Afterwards, you wipe your tears, go back to the drawing board and just do your design. Yeah, there's no competition, there's no rush about being the greatest architect or the best design, or there's really nothing like that. Just do you.
Okay. So Vincent too is asking whether affordable housing will ever be a reality in Ghana.
Okay. And this is something I'm really passionate about, affordable housing in Ghana, because unfortunately we are in a system where young people who are doing national service are being paid very little, and most of them have to look for places, and then they are being forced to pay 2 years rent advance or a year's rent advance, which is very funny, because the salaries they get or the allowances they get doesn't even equate to the living expenses or the living crisis in the country. So for me, what I think so far, with all the things I've learned in procurement, sustainability, procuring materials sustainably, I think the major problem would be to, first of all, develop our local building methods. So you're looking at things like the old, I think it's called Atakpami or something, those kind of buildings where most of them have been standing like since. Now you're looking at how to develop these buildings, these methods, and then using innovation and technology to sort of make it modern, so that it becomes attractive to the local person, walking on the street who wants to design a house or wants to build a house. I think if we look at it from that direction, doing indigenous sourcing, thinking about sustainability, I think it would be affordable. But then again, when you say affordable housing, it doesn't necessarily mean that the house is going to be cheap. Technically, affordable housing is like you're looking at a sustainable house, but then you're looking at it over the long-term period. So even though I'm using solar panels, in the long run, over let's say 30 years, I'm saving less on energy because I'm using renewable energy. Do you understand? So it's possible, but I just think we need time. We need to embrace some of our local traditional materials and sort of develop them into something that we would want to see as nice, aesthetic. And Yeah, I think it's very feasible. I think so.
Okay. And then someone too wants to find out. The person says, do you have hope if you don't study outside the country?
You have hope?
Yes, the person is trying to find out whether you have hope if you don't study outside the country.
Yes, I think if you have the opportunity, fine. But I think there's hope. I mean, there are people I know. Rhoda is an example. Rhoda is my Rhoda. I met Rhoda in Denmark, and Rhoda had her work in some of the I think the exhibitions. And I really don't know what exactly she's doing now, but I think so far she's been featured on some of the TV platforms and things, and she's doing pretty well. I think it's more about how you push yourself and how you really want your work to stand out and what the impact you are making. As I said, in Ghana, it's more about a business. Architecture is looked as, okay, I'm designing this 2-bedroom house so I can get some money. It's not necessarily sustainable and humane. Once I'm just designing, the renders are good, the client has the money to pay. That's it. I mean, I don't blame the system. I don't blame it. It's the system that has made it that has made it so. But I don't think. I mean, it's a good thing to come outside because you have the exposure. I think that's the main thing, the exposure. But then if you're in Ghana, I think it's you staying in your corner and then making sure that wherever you are is bright. So yeah, there's still hope. There's still hope.
Okay, so Rosa too is asking whether you plan or you are currently mentoring young students to follow your path, looking outside the box.
At the moment, I don't. I'm not really mentoring people. I mean, my arms are open to people who want to come and study abroad, or people who want to do other alternative things. Mind you, my first master's was in Ghana as well, University. It wasn't anywhere else. And I'm using that master's even to work in the UK at the moment. So it's my arms are open. I mean, I don't really mind mentoring, but I would actually look into it.
Okay. So Marvin is also asking that, in your opinion, or according to the exposure you have had as an African architect, how can you blend seamlessly the idea of urbanization and smart cities with cultural identity and heritage?
Okay, so I think I touched on it a little. So this is what I was talking about, and using the local things we have to using the local things we have and then sort of developing it. So for example, I'll use let me use windows. I tend to use this example a lot. So let's say windows in Ghana, most of the houses we see they're all sliding windows, which technically isn't very efficient because then you have 50% of air coming into the room or the house. Previously or way back, it was designed such that we're using louver blades. But the thing is now, louver blades seem or feel very outdated. So the thing is, as architects, are we designing something which is similar but has the same principle, which is aesthetic, that people can, use instead of using the sliding doors or the sliding windows, which technically doesn't bring enough ventilation into the room. So using that as an example, yes, I think that's how we can sort of merge the culture, heritage, and identity into urbanization, into smart cities and things of that sort. In terms of smart cities, culturally, it may be hard in certain aspects. Because if you're looking at smart cities, and let's say talking about renewable energy sources, so let's say solar panels, it's an innovation, it's a technology. So for that, it's more like a borrowed idea that we have to incorporate. Unless, of course, we are looking at I've forgotten the name. I was going to the whole idea where you can use waste to generate electricity. Yeah, so with that one, culturally, you can have let's say a cultural or a local framework that would sort of power energy. And I think people are even doing that in Africa at the moment. Yeah, so I think it depends on research, which I feel most of us as young people should do and start, working on and designing, so we are able to seamlessly blend these two together.
Okay. All right. So, Mommy is also asking this question. So, how do you hope to get the Ghanaian authorities to include sustainable development policies into their architectural space?
Okay. This I don't know if to say this is very it's more about is it political, or I don't know how to put it, but I think in Ghana we have one of the finest laws. I am very sure, I haven't really studied, I'm sure maybe Millicent can help since she's done like environmental law and things like that. I'm sure in Ghana we have laws with regards to sustainability. If you look at COP20, is it COP20, 26 or 24? I can't really remember, but one of these sustainability things. Ghana was part. We had the president here. They know about it. It's there. It's been embedded. The laws are there. But the thing is, the system is not working. So then it sort of makes it hard to really want to implement things as an architect. And I think this is where the architecture, I've forgotten the name, architecture, I don't know if someone can help me with that, but yeah, the Architecture Association of Ghana, yes. I think this is where they come in, where they are supposed to actually make sure that firms are putting certain clauses in their contracts and in their design, and sort of making sure that whatever they design comes from a sustainable point of view. So with regards to that, it's a very technical thing. I believe there are laws surrounding that, but the thing is making those laws work. And unfortunately, the system we find ourselves in isn't too good. So I don't know. I really don't know much about that.
Okay, so if we can get Miss Millicent to answer this question for us, we will be very glad.
Yeah, so I think what Aba was saying is a great point. And when we look at environmental law in general, even when we look at even the Western countries or the US or Europe or any other continent or any country you find yourself, you see that they themselves have some of these laws or these policies in place. For example, in my environmental law class, I was looking at waste, and then they have this policy on waste to ensure that they don't dump their waste on the African continent. But then they still do it because it's benefiting them and it's having an effect on us, but they are not really intentional about that. But then we have to face some of these issues that they put forward to us. And so I think that we as professionals or built environmental professionals or people interested in policy, we really need to be intentional about the way we also look at things. And then how do we really make sure that whatever we are putting forth doesn't benefit another party, but is more beneficial to us as a group of people. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Miss Aba Wilson, please, this question is for you. The person wants to find out the plans that you have to influence the architecture course in KNUST with your learners. The question goes like, Miss Wilson, what plans do you have to influence the architecture course in KNUST with your learners?
He said
TG
to no.
Yeah, the question is what plans the person is trying to find out the plans you have to influence the architecture course in KNUST with the knowledge you've acquired so far. Do you get it?
I influence. I think the courses so far in KNUST are, I mean, if compared to what is being taught in the diaspora, outside, they are quite similar. I honestly don't know how to go about the question, but
the person is to find out whether you, first of all, whether you even have plans to, maybe you have an initiative coming up that you want to introduce KNUST. Do you get it? Course in
I think
with what you have.
Okay. I mean, if I have the opportunity to ever lecture or come back to KNUST, I think one of the courses I'll look at would be AI, like AI in the sense that we're not looking at parametric design. We're looking at it, as I said, from biomimicry. So how nature affects our design, or how we can use the system of the nature's organisms and activities to also, replicate the same thing in a design. Yeah, so I think that's what I would look out for. But at the moment, I'm not there. I don't think I have any influence to change courses. Yeah.
Okay. Someone is also asking that in Ghana, this question is to all the speakers. In Ghana, what will be interpreted as affordable housing? Whilst abroad, the term is used for certain categories of people and certain wages band. How would this translate to Ghanaian society? In Ghana, what will be interpreted as affordable housing? Whilst abroad, the term is used for certain categories of people and certain wages band. How would this translate to Ghanaian society? I think the person is trying to compare
affordable housing
in the Ghanaian context to the diaspora, the outside context. How is it being translated? I think so. Yeah.
Okay, let me take this bit and I'll let the other people also talk. So I think I was talking about affordable housing, sustainable affordable housing. I know it has to be it involves money and all of that. I think in England, let me just say in England, when we talk about affordable housing now, even though you're looking at the living, the living crisis, you're looking at the living experience, all of those things, it's more about creating a space which is sustainable, a space which people can afford. Even if people can't afford, the system works such that there are homes for people who are not working, homes like it's given to them, like they are given a place to live without you paying for rent. In Africa, it's totally different. That system isn't there. So for us, you're looking at, as I said, you're looking at it from building methods, procuring things that are made in Ghana, so that the importation costs, like all these things we bring from outside, is sort of should I say cancelled out. Yeah, I mean most of them are ruled out, so that you can now focus on the local materials and then innovative ways to bring down the costs of the houses for people. So even though they are on two different levels, the whole idea is still about sustainability, still about cost. And I think that translating it to Ghana, I think that's what it is. I don't know if Millicent has any or Henry has any other thing to say.
Miss Akes, please, you have anything to... Okay, that's fine. Right.
Okay. I think in terms of affordable housing, yes, there are ways that they have been categorized in the Western world, but even from some points, you can also see that some of these things that have also been implemented, like looking at it from the wage standpoint, some of these are actually even not even working in the Western world, and then they are still finding ways and means to go about it. There are other ways that they've also approached it by using things like, or implementing things like community trust funds and land trusts. That is more of like the community coming together and contributing towards like ensuring that they have access to affordable housing and then housing in general. But then those are things that are actually still in the works, and then they are trying to make it work. So when you come to Ghana, I think we can also look at what can actually work in our context, and then even if from looking at the wage points, like how do we integrate this wage idea into how we can actually ensure that what we are talking about and saying affordable is actually being able to be afforded, and then not even just looking at it from an affordable in terms of like who can pay for this, but then how is it really beneficial to the community, or how is it beneficial to people in the long run, and then how do even generations to come, not looking at people who are living today, but generations to come, how is it able to serve the future generation? So yeah, I think that's just what I have. I'm not an expert on this topic, but that's just the general idea that I have about affordable housing in Ghana.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Millicent. Mr. Wilson, this question is still for you. The person says, can you brief us on how procurement works outside in your experience as compared to Ghana? That's the last question.
Okay, so what I studied in procurement is more in the built environment. So we are looking, it's more towards project management. So we are looking at how we are managing projects, okay, let me just take from this. So as an architect, when you have your design and everything sorted, you are building, there are things that are going to be procured. So you need the QS, the quantity surveyor, to give you quantities and all of that, for you to be able to know the items to buy, the quantities, the exact figures to make the construction come to life. So in Ghana, I haven't had a lot of experience in that field, but then what I know is in Ghana, in terms of contract administration and tenders, so on the public sector, before a project is started, you need certain building professionals to tender, go into biddings and all of that, before they know, okay, this company is able to work on this particular phase of the project. This company will be giving us materials for this. This company is going to be in charge of electricals, all of those things. So I think it's the same. It works the same across board. Procurement is procurement. So, and construction is also, it's basically the same. So if before someone or a big project is about to start, you definitely need people to screen people, go through proposals before a contract is awarded to somebody. So I don't think there's much of a difference. So for me, it's actually the same thing in Ghana and here, just that over here is much more adhered to. In Ghana, procurement is mainly for like the governmental, agencies or governmental big projects. Because as an architect, if you are, most people build, it's mostly residence and residential, stuff. So then you have sole sourcing. So there isn't a need for procurement. So my bit is more on the public sector. Yeah. So it's still the same. It cuts across most jurisdictions.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is directed to all. How do you get to work in an architectural firm outside? Can you apply directly? If yes, how? Is it that, or the person is saying, or you need to come and study, then apply to stay and work?
I'm sorry, could you go over the question again?
Okay, so the question is, how do you get to work in an architectural firm outside? Can you apply directly? If yes, how?
So is this person like
this
from
person,
Ghana? Or...
Yeah, this person actually from Ghana.
I'm looking for. I'm not going to even pretend. Looking for jobs is jobs, especially outside, is one of, even most of us who studied here, we are still in that process of still looking for jobs. The thing is, it has to do with sponsorship. So once you have a company who is willing to sponsor you, cater for your visa, whatnot, pay you the amount you're supposed to pay. I mean, yeah, you're good to go. But the thing is, most people don't want to do that. You find very few companies wanting to sponsor people. So then now you're looking at the skill set. Your skill set should be like A+, A1, for them to trust and then bring you all the way from Ghana to wherever. So yes, there are a few job boards you can look at online that give opportunities for people in Africa to look and apply for jobs. So yeah, it's possible. It's actually possible.
Okay, so Cornelius, you has a question.
Yeah.
Hello, Aba.
Hi, Cornelius.
Thank you for your presentation, and also thank you, Millicent and Henry. Mine is, in a way, I want to give all of us that if you would want to make impact, especially in this context, that's Ghana. Aba made mention of laws about sustainability being introduced into our context, and I wanted to talk more on that one. That I think that's the way that we can go as professionals if we want to make impact in our context, because over here is policies that can work, and even with these policies, we would have to channel them to organizations outside, like the UN, who are much more ready than even the government here. Okay, so these policies are what I'm suggesting that our focus should be more upon. And I remember the annual general meeting that was held recently. We were trying to, it's very funny that we're trying to establish the architect's role in the constitution. That what they are trying to do now is that instead of the architect being the sole driver for a construction project, they are replacing that name architect with something like a developer. And people were making noise on that at the annual general meeting. That means the actual role of the architect is not being seen. Okay, that's why I think policies will have much more to help with us. Yeah, so that's what I'm driving all of us are focused to. That if we will indeed make impact in our context, even while we are outside, let's also try to see how best we can use policies to channel our aims. Okay. Otherwise, you will still come back and the system also work against us.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Cornelius. I think
Yeah.
I think that's what I was saying. That I personally, I think this is where the AGI, the institute comes
Ghana
in.
Institute of
Yeah,
Architects.
exactly. I think they have a major role to play with him in all of this, because it's always been, we have the AGM and then we have the Minister of Housing or some Works and Housing come, and then the same things are being said, the same ideas are being put out there. And I think as moving forward, we, the younger ones, like younger architects coming up, we have to actually make these organizations responsible and sort of put these things out there, and not make it look like architecture is just about, the money. I understand the system we are in, but I think if we are able to actually, let me say, market the whole sustainability idea to even people who can afford it, and sort of explain to them the benefits of it in the long term, I think that's also like a very good idea. And slowly they can create these sustainable models within the schools. I think the schools can also reflect these things, and also go to certain organizations, as Cornelius said, the UN Habitat. These people are big on sustainability, so it just not like it just, but it takes the whole architecture institution, maybe of Ghana or Africa, to go to them and sort of like explain how we want certain things to be included and how we want it to work, not just written down on paper, but then it's actually going to work, especially for public or state buildings or institutions and things like that. So thank you, Cornelius, for reading that as well.
Okay, so this question is directed to Miss Militant. Christopher wanted to find out from Militant, as someone passionate about urbanism, how do you see the concepts of urban planning and design being applied differently in Ghana compared to the USA? And are there specific urban challenges or successes in each place that have stood out to you in your studies and experiences? Miss Millicent.
Oh, sorry, I think I was muted.
Okay.
Yeah, so the question was talking about concepts in urban planning and design, and how they could be applied differently in Ghana as compared to US.
Yes.
Or maybe other countries, and then specific challenges and successes that have stood out. First of all, I'll say that looking at Africa or Ghana in general, there are some areas that we can get things right in terms of urban planning or city planning. And even when you come to the West, or you come to US, or you go to Europe, you realize that most of the things that they implemented where their country was actually used as a test bed. So you can see that some of these things that they implemented were really used to segregate people and really create marginalized communities. And then this is really evidence in some of the issues that they even face today. Yeah, people who don't even have access to affordable housing, as they say, although they have like policies surrounding it, but then there are still like a lot of challenges surrounding that. There are also a lot of challenges when it comes to climate change and, people facing vulnerabilities. And so I wouldn't say that it's a success here, but I think both areas, like Ghana and then the US, everywhere has its own challenges and then its own successes in how our cities or the urban environments are being designed, or how we approach things. And I think that there's really a tremendous opportunity for us to move Ghana forward from where we are, and then really focus more on our specific African context, and then really borrow from what we have in Ghana or in other African countries. What do we have, and how do we really make use of that to really ensure that whatever we are designing for our urban cities or our communities or wherever is really context specific and really helps to address our own issues and help us to really integrate and incorporate more of our context into how we approach the way we design. Yeah, I think that's mainly it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Miss Millicent. Back to Cornelius's contribution. Courage, Christopher, and Tepari, please, what do you guys think about what Cornelius said? Christopher, Tepari, Courage. Okay, I think they are not really active. But please, does anybody have any contribution?
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
The question is, can we really separate architecture from politics? Henry talked about leadership, and Cornelius brought up the concept of policies, and Millicent has made us understood that sometimes there are policies, but they are not working. So is it that we need to rely on the politics of it and try and make a change there before it is realized on ground? How do we reconcile this? Do we need politicians who are also architects so that they understand where we are coming from? Or architects can actually make a change without any political, shenanigans?
Hello.
Okay, let me just see if I can respond to that. So I wouldn't say we need architects to be politicians. I think in every profession there's a system of hierarchy. So that's why we have the ministries, where we have the Ministry of Works and Housing. And I'm sure under that Ministry of Work and Housing, they know the different building associations there are. So in terms of policies, I think they are really important. They do go hand in hand. I wouldn't isolate politics. I wouldn't say politics. I'll just say policies and laws, because the thing about politics and a government, they change. So then once we have the laws, the idea is that whoever comes in is supposed to still make sure that the laws are still working and then the laws are still thriving. So it still goes back to we as the associations trying to put their foot down and making all of these organizations, ministries accountable. They are supposed to give them updates, let them know, go on conferences, training, see what these other people are doing out there and how they can bring it back to our local context, so that we can also emulate these little things. So I think it goes hand in hand. You cannot have architects cannot be on their own, politicians cannot be on their own. We need like each other, so that that whole economy like thrives and works. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Please, any other question or contribution? Betty, please, you have any contribution? Karen, please, you have anything to say? Okay. Karen, Betty. Rhoda, please, you have any contribution or question? Aubrey. Aubrey and Rhoda. Okay, that's fine.
I'm listening.
Cornelius, do you have a contribution?
Yeah, just a little to add to what Ms. Aba said.
Okay.
I also think architecture and politics should find a common ground, because depending on the particular location, one hand will have a upper domination on the other. But despite that, there will still be the need for politics and architecture. Else, we would have to solely depend on individuals. If the government is not seeing the need to put certain things in place, it will only be by the virtue of, or by the goodness of individuals, that the community will benefit. In Ghana, you can have someone like Ibrahim Ahmad. I'm speaking of the artist who will, by his own money, set up a community where art could thrive. Okay, he is doing that based on his own resources, and he's getting no impact from the government. In that sense, if you can't have, say, 10 Ibrahim Ahmeds in Ghana, that means it will be as it is. Okay, so there's a need for, I also think, that for politics to find a middle ground with architecture. Yeah. And I think there are people who are researching into that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think those were really great points that
I want to add something
Cornelius
to that.
and okay, you can continue, Aubrey.
Okay. So I really listened to your lecture, Aba, and I think it's very interesting, especially the affordable housing issue in Ghana. It's also something I've been thinking about, and the primary issue should actually have been solved by the government, but it seems the government has no interest. And I think policies, yes, can help. The laws can help. And I really like the last point Cornelius made. He was saying the government has no interest. So usually then it falls to individuals to do it. As architects, we know some good things, some building materials, techniques, certain things we can do. We are still doing some research, as Aba is doing, and lots of other people. But in the end, when all of this is done, it will be left with bringing it into fruition, letting it happen. And we need money to do that. So I'm also interested in that, but I am going through a different path. Me, I'm looking for money. And I think with some money, you don't need to wait for the government. You can be the change you want to bring into the society. So although we are architects, I think we shouldn't always focus on architecture. Some would do, yes, but some of us also has to focus on other things to be able to impact in other ways. So that's what I'm saying, that it's not only about architecture. Money is what actually does the work. Money and influence is what actually gets things done. So some of us can also focus on those things. And then we come together, those who are in the theory doing the research, those who know how to do it, and those who are also architects, understand the importance and the impact which is necessary in society, and then do it. So I want to encourage some of us to not only be thinking about finding ways to do it, but also looking for resources, connections, and ways of actually doing it, so that
in the end, in a few years, when we've all reached a certain level, as we've met here, we are talking about it. Then at that time, we meet. People have the means, people have the knowledge. We come together and we just do it. That's what I'm just suggesting.
Okay, thank you, Ruby. All right, so okay, so Henry, yeah, Mr. Chiringi. Yeah.
All right. So I'd like to comment on the issue of politics. Politics in Africa has been portrayed in a very negative way, because very many have used it as a tool to fulfill individual interests and to gain a lot of wealth, which is undeserving. But I really think architects need to be involved in politics, and because these people have the power to decide directions of nations. And for example, let's look at Italy. Italy decided to have Lorenzo Piano, a great architect, as part of their Senate for life. And I think this has been around a decade, and he has voting rights in the Italian Senate. And this is because architecture is considered as a special field to them, and I think it is even for us. But we just live in a continent that doesn't recognize much about how important it is to have architects and the impact that they can make. But I think we really need to be in such positions so that we can really maximize our potential as a profession in terms of our contribution to the nation. So I'd like to take an example because I'm part of the current council of the Uganda Society of Architects, and we have actually now taken an initiative to push for architects in the Ugandan Parliament, because our next elections will be in 2026. Yes, there are ministries of infrastructure, housing, but ministries of lands, but the impact, and if the people in these ministries don't even know who an architect is or what architecture can do, because probably they get there when through other means rather than proper qualification. But I really think the political scene has died in Africa, and it will not favor us if we're not part of it. And we need to realize that we can be part of it, and that would ease our contribution. Yep.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chiringi. And the meeting has finally come to an end, and I really want to express my appreciation to all the various
Wait. How come the meeting just came to an end? I just raised my hands.
I called you in.
Yes, because I wasn't actually ready by that time, so the meeting can't end without me sharing my contribution.
All right, Mr. Safari. Please, you have 1 minute.
No, 1 minute wouldn't be enough. Anyways, I just wanted to contribute to whatever everybody's saying, but I'm going to talk about architecture and immigration, right? So I know most of us are done with school, and some are working, and a whole bunch of stuff. Everybody's just trying to figure out whatever will be best for them and stuff like that. So in my opinion, I'm just going to discuss about the immigration, because currently Canada is actually facing labor shortages in certain professions and stuff like that, right? And they have this system in place that is currently taking people from around the world to come and kind of like strengthen their economy. And luckily for us, we have a category that is called the STEM category that they use for immigration streams, and architects are part of it. Okay, so if anybody is looking into, let's say, migrating to Canada, like as a permanent resident, you can actually look into the express entry, right? And it actually uses this point-based system that takes certain factors into consideration to give you a ranking score among a pool of applicants, right? So whoever ranked the highest, like every 2 weeks, the government invites them to apply for permanent resident. You come in as a permanent resident, then you find whatever field you want to get into. If you want to become an architect or whatever thing, you go through the whole licensing process and everything. So it's basically like when you look at the factors that they consider, if let's say you are below 30 years old, because if you're 29 and below, you don't really lose points for your age. Okay, so and let's say you're below 30 years old and you also have a master's degree like MAC, right? You get like higher points for education too. So if you have bachelor's, I think you get like 125, and if you have master's, it gives you 135, right? And another thing that's really important is your level of your English proficiency level. So you'd have to write IELTS. And they also have one that's called CELPIP, the Canadian English Language Proficiency Index Program. But currently, Ghana doesn't have centers for that. But for IELTS, you can actually write it. So I'm not really going to bore everyone with a whole bunch of details and yada, yada, yada. But then if you guys are willing to migrate using the architecture that you have, the degrees and everything that you have, you can actually look into, the express entry. We have a STEM base category that architects are part of it, that they're kind of like inviting those people with those skill sets and other professions to like immigrate to Canada, then, do a whole bunch of stuff like that. So that's the only contribution that I have to add to everything that everybody has said so far.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah.
Sorry, just one last thing. I just want to say I don't know if we have any undergraduates or people who are doing their MAC, but I just want to let them know that they should dare to be different. I know back in Ghana it's a bit difficult. It's more geared towards who has the best designs, who has all the sheets, whose render is good, who knows how to do the 3Ds and all of that. But there's no competition. Do what you can and then be proud of your own work. There are times where you look at other people's work and you know that, maybe I'm not that good, I'm not that good, but just be proud of where you are, be grateful for everything, and dare to be different, and just do what you want to do. Don't follow the status quo. Don't be just the normal architect we are all being trained to do. Do something out of the book. Do something that will be of impact and that would actually help, and also do something you're passionate about. So yeah, that's the last thing I have to say. And thank you very much for the opportunity, and thanks to everyone for listening.
You're welcome, Ms. Aba. And thank you all very much for joining this. We are very, very sorry for today, the delay in the time, and we are sorry for stretching your time too. And many, many thanks to the speakers too, and to everybody who joined this platform, ASAG executives and all the executives, the architects, the professional architects. God bless you all. Okay. Father Lord, we thank you so much for a successful meeting. We bless your name. We adore you. Thank you for the knowledge that we got here. We thank you for everybody's life. We pray and ask that you shall let us be here on time tomorrow, God willing. Let everything go successful as planned. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you all for joining. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. I hope to see you all friends. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.